Welcome to Fight the Good Fight Club, the podcast about the relentless pursuit of a life and relationships filled with purpose, love, joy, and peace. If you're ready to get real and dig deep, then you're ready for Fight the Good Fight Club.
Hi, and welcome. I'm your co-host, Cynthia Cintron.
This is Marcel Pope.
And today we are covering lesson 135. I'm not wearing my glasses today, so it's a little difficult. But if I defend myself, I am attacked. That's funny. Am I defending myself? This is a really sort of complicated topic, because the mere words attack and defend, right, elicit strong emotions.
Right.
And this particular topic is really the basis for a lot of issues that we have interpersonally and interrelationship wise. Is that a word?
Yes, it is. You know, and with that thought in mind, off the top, this whole idea of Fight the Good Fight Club is to really ascertain, you know, what is the fight and what is the good fight. Well, it's really about a fight for having a peace of mind, because there's so many things that infiltrate that peace of mind, because that is our natural state. So from the top, the course ascertains there are two selves. There's a spiritual self and a physical self. And in this physical world, we are living both lives. Even though we can completely shut off our spiritual life, it's still there, whether we block it out or not. So the whole idea of the Course is to realize who we really are. Think of it this way. If you've ever seen a prism, like the Pink Floyd album, The Prism, where white light comes in, hits the prism, and then the full spectrum of colors come out. Everybody probably remembers Roy G. Biv. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Mm-hmm. But the source of all that light is white light. So in this physical world, you could be orange, I could be blue. But what we really are is white light. In this world, we're a different color. But so the spiritual life is white light, and the physical life is whatever color we are. And so the whole backdrop of that, relating it to this lesson, if I defend myself, I am attacked. Well, the two selves are, if you defend yourself, your personal self, the color that you are, your personal life, whatever you've built, you're attacking your own mind, because all of that comes from your mind. Who are you really? Well, when you are being white light, you don't need to defend anything. You can say, hey, blue is blue. So why are you blue? And they're attacking whatever. Another form, there are many forms of attack. And but the moment you defend yourself, and you had a pretty good angle on that whole concept of, because when you first hear it, you think, okay, I only defend myself when I'm attacked.
Yeah.
The lesson is no. When you defend yourself, that's when you're attacked. And that is it took me a long time to really understand that, but you understood it right away.
Yeah. I did, because I've actually, I've done work on this, so I didn't know the words to it.
Yeah.
And when you verbalized and said, what do you think of this lesson, it clicked for me.
Yeah.
It not to simplify it too much, but I have somebody told me this saying one time, and I thought it was fantastic. Just because somebody lays a pile of poop at my doorstep doesn't mean I have to step in it.
Right.
So
Exactly.
And that's
the attack, right? Putting the poop on your doorstep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then if you go ahead and acknowledge, you can just whatever.
Exactly. And that's how and interestingly enough, so Marcel and I, over the years, on a Sunday morning, we've had this routine where he's reading his course, and I'll walk in with coffee, and we'll sit down and I'll say to him, what are you reading? And he talks to me about the course, and then we have conversation about it. So now we're doing this podcast, and I thought, it probably would be a good idea for me to read the lessons. Because I come from the approach of I've done a lot of therapy.
Sure.
I've had, School of Hard Knocks and all that good stuff. But I just think that it was a good idea. So Marcel gifted me a really lovely copy. He got me a prettier one than his. Thank you. So it's really fancy. But so I read this lesson, and I was really. It was great. It was a really wonderful experience, and it added more dimensions to what I already thought I knew, which is partially why we're doing this podcast. Right. We come into where we are today, right, at whatever stage we are in our lives. We're divorced, we're sons, we're daughters, we're whatever we are, and we have our own ideas of what our values are, our morals. And we have our baggage that colors a lot of that. So we want people to sort of look at where they are and give them another perspective.
Yes.
Just to single area in your life is absolutely fabulous and stellar. Please call us. But if it's not, well, then let's explore it. Yeah. Let's see. I mean, which is the premise of our show, right? The relentless pursuit of peace, joy, love, and happiness. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, and exactly that for me is kind of an aha moment when you had said that. Is that when you defend yourself, that's when you are attacked. Now. Using that colorful example, it's a story that comes to my mind, and it really is kind of appropriate for this. There's an old story of a Zen master. He was mature. He had lived a stellar life. He helped a lot of people find peace within. He had this big school, and all of a sudden, a knock comes on his door, and it's a man and a woman with a baby, and they said, "Hey, you fathered this baby. Here, take care of it." He looks at him and goes and says, "Is that so?" He takes the baby. He's taking care of the baby. Meanwhile, his life that most people would defend, his reputation, his school, and everything, he didn't defend it. He just started taking care of the baby. No problem. Oh, beautiful baby. Baby's feeding it. Next thing you know, he teaches how to walk. 2 years later, a knock on the door. Boom, boom, boom. "We are so sorry. Can you find it in your heart to forgive us? Huge mistake. Our daughter, we found out the local young butcher is the father. Give the baby back." He looks at him and says, "Is that so?" Hands the baby back and goes about his life. Now, that's an extreme example of not defending your life here, knowing that you are living truth no matter what anyone says, thinks, or does to you. Most of us be inclined to defend our reputation. This isn't true. Well, yeah, it is. We had engaged in a fight, and that's when you are attacked. And that, again, that's an extreme example, but I've always loved that story. Now, that's really difficult to do because we are building a colorful life here. We try to anyway, personal life.
We're living a human life.
And when someone attacks that, we are likely to defend it.
Or we perceive that we've been attacked.
That's it.
Because isn't that the crux, though?
Yes.
How many times someone says something to someone and they say, whoa, 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 that's not what I meant.
Right.
But the person completely overreacts. I had an event yesterday with my business, and something like that precisely happened. Someone asked a question innocently. Yeah. The person who received that question perceived that they were being criticized on the work that they'd done.
So they felt they were being attacked.
They felt that they were being attacked and immediately attacked back, went on the defense.
Right.
And we all just kind of stood there looking like, whoa, this is not even near what we're talking about. Right. Where are you coming from?
Yes.
So, and that's where we invite people to sort of, if this happens in your life, if you perceive that your boss, your partner, your kids, your parents, they talk whenever you're having interactions and you leave there feeling injured.
Yes.
Right? Maybe you're feeling attacked.
Right.
And you're defending. So talk to me about spiritually, what does the lesson talk about?
Spiritually, on a deeper, distinction.
Now that we've defined it.
Now that we've defined it. So the attack is really upon your body, and you defend your body. And in doing that, because your mind's misidentified itself as being a body rather than being a color, instead of being white light. Okay? So we defend the color, and that's where the attack begins. And so here's a good example. Most of us, almost everyone I would say, is on some level concerned about how they look weight-wise. I'm overweight, I need to lose weight. All these diet programs, everyone's done this, start a program January 1, you fail the third day and thought, oh crap. So someone you haven't seen in a while comes up and says, hey, man, you've gained some weight. Right?
That person's dead on arrival.
That's right.
That's DOA.
Not
babe.
only did they attack you, they just signed their own death warrant.
Heck yeah. I'm sorry, what?
So now
I can lose weight. Stupid can't be fixed.
But that is a full-on frontal attack. Right?
Yeah.
You've gained weight.
That's right.
But someone else cannot say, because that is an attack, man. They just launched a mortar, a big bomb, right? So they've attacked you.
Right.
So now, but really, if you don't respond, but you do, you start saying to yourself, jerk, but I have gained weight. And your mind.
You're looking in the mirror,
attack
you're validating.
From you in your mind.
Because you've accepted what's been laid at your doorstep.
You got
You've
it. You've accepted the poo.
Yeah.
You're defending. That's right. And so you're defending. Now you're being attacked. You're attacking yourself. So on a deeper level, this is what goes on in your mind. There's been a, quote, attack on you from a comment from someone that you've gained weight. Then you start beating yourself. I am fat. Yeah. It's true. I'm always going to be fat. I was told I was fat when I was a kid. Even my own parents told me I was fat and needed to lose weight. You know, all those things start coming up, and you're attacking yourself because you started defending which self, this physical self. Hey, gain some weight, whatever, just blow it off. So another thing that I try to do that I've done.
That's a really, really good point.
It's huge. So someone's hitting you. It's who they are. Think of this. Would you get upset that water is wet? It's the nature of water, right?
Yep.
It's wet. To go, I'm pissed off. Why? Because water is wet. Is that not dumb?
No,
is it any different than someone acting the way they were saying something to you? They're just water being wet. Why let it affect you? But we're humans, right? We don't know how our minds work typically. Yeah. And so that's why this course to me has taught me how to fight the good fight. Have I won the fight? Hell no, I haven't won it. I'm still learning, and the course says that, talking about this, and the lesson is someone else could get something completely different. But from the outset, if I defend myself, I am attacked. And it's showing us how our mind works, what it's made up of. And that's what the course is really about. In fact, in that same lesson, one of my favorite sayings, this life is a meaningful encounter with the truth. And that's what it says this whole life is about. Because look, we are connected to our bodies, but the problem is we attach. When I say we, our minds are connected to our bodies, but part of our minds, or the other self, this attach our mind to our body. That's the problem. If we were totally attached, eternally and forever, we would never, quote, die. We would just be on earth forever. If the body was an extension of the mind. The body is just housing the mind. That same lesson talks about that concept, so that when you defend your body, your life, you are attacking your mind.
Okay.
Yep.
So we are talking today about if I defend myself, I am attacked. So before we go to break,
yes.
We want to just reiterate, if I defend myself, I am attacked. And we are going to break, actually, now.
Okay.
So when we come back, we're going to talk about this concept in relationships and how it plays out and what it looks like.
Perfect.
So we'll be right back.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. If you're enjoying this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe and tell your friends. For more tips and ways to dig deep and get real, sign up for our newsletter, read blogs, and shop our merch at fightthegoodfightclub.com.
Welcome back. And today I am Cynthia Cintron, and
I'm Marcel Pope.
And we are talking about lesson 135 in A Course in Miracles.
Yes.
And it is, if I defend myself, I am attacked. It's a complicated concept, but not.
Yeah.
So one of the things we were talking before the break about how in oneself, how this concept plays out. Now we're going to discuss a little bit how it plays out in terms of relationship.
Yes.
And one of the things that comes up for me is a healed mind does not plan. And I want to tell this story. When years and years ago, I had a therapist that was brilliant, and I remember we were doing. I was in a personal development course, and I was running some music for the course, and in my mind, it was a disaster. It was a mess. People who knew what they were supposed to be doing, they weren't doing it, and I felt that the students weren't getting their maximum experience, and I was all up in my head, really frustrated about what went wrong. Meanwhile, the kids, the students, the adults, everyone who was in the course had their experiences, and they were doing their thing.
Sure.
But I was in my type A control freak state of mind way back then. So I'm sitting with the therapist who happened to also be an instructor at the course. And we're talking about it, and he said, "So, how are you feeling today?" And I said, "I'm just really upset. I think that this weekend was terrible." He said, "What happened?" I told him how I thought that the music, that's such an integral part of the course, wasn't going well. And I finished telling the story, and he looked at me and he said, "Cynthia, I have a question for you. If everything went absolutely perfectly well, where would the learning be?"
Good point.
And I looked at him like he made me sit in the poop that was laid at my door. Not step in it, sit in it. Right. I looked at him and said, "Are you insane? What are you talking about? You were there. It was a mess." Yeah. And he said, "So everything should be perfect all the time." Yeah. I said, "Well, that would be easier, yes." Yeah. And so
define perfect.
But I went home and I thought about it. And it made so much sense to me. It unfolded. And then when we came back and we talked about it, I said, "Well, let's talk about that concept a little more." And he said, "If things go wrong, what would happen? What happens when things go wrong?" And I just started listing off, things are bad. The students don't have their experience. It's a disaster. Yeah. And he said, what I'm hearing you say is that you're incredibly insecure. And before I came out of my chair to pummel him, I said, "Are you insane?" And
there you go. That's the aha moment.
And he said, "Well, if you were secure that you could handle any outcome, why would you be so worried about controlling every possible angle?"
Yes.
And this is way too much information coming into my head, and I was just wrapped up. But really, all of this, what it boils down to is, and I've learned every time one of my friends goes into control freak, I've got to control this. I've got to do. If I don't do this way, if my husband doesn't do this, if the kids don't do this, if this project isn't done like this, everything's going to fall apart and everything's going to be horrible. And I just kind of look at them and say, "So you can't handle anything at all. You are that weak-minded that if something goes wrong, you can't manage it."
Exactly.
And so full circle around to, if I defend myself, I am attacked.
Yes.
If things are going wrong, these things are an attack on my ability to make things perfect. Yeah. They are an attack
on your security.
On my security. They are an attack on me.
Yes.
Now I must defend it and I must fix it.
Yes.
And it makes me wholly imperfect.
That's right. You've developed a false sense of security in your control plan. Anything that goes wrong, it ruins your security. Whereas in that very lesson, it mentions the only thing to trust in is supreme confidence in your mind, which is an extension of an eternal mind that is life itself.
Yeah.
And as you're making such solid plans and no room for anything else, this mind cannot work through your life. And for lack of the God within you, the mind of which we're a part of, can't operate. You've completely blocked it out with all your detailed plans. And you won't let anything go wrong. And that is the biggest fault in your plan.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And to take that just a step further, so you've got your spiritual part,
right,
where you're not allowing the peace and the joy and everything that goes there. Here on earth, as a human, we are denying the people around us that we are in relationship from being in relationship with us, and giving them the opportunity to participate with us, because we are controlling the heck out of everything. And at the end of the day, we're miserable. That's
because we're trying to lead this colorful life, and we've identified with it so much we've forgotten that we are really white light here to experience colors. And we get attached to certain colors. A color comes in our life and leaves. We focus on what we lost. So we're afraid of losing that color. Meanwhile, sometimes if you don't roll with the changes, maybe you get to feel the full spectrum of all the colors. You know, and you're stuck on one color. So it's a very rudimentary example, but I think the more rudimentary, the more easier it is to understand, not to get too locked up. One of the biggest, I guess, pains that I've experienced, and probably most experiences, or pain for most people, is the pain of divorce, right? And or losing a loved one, right? Because these were, you made a dedication, vows before God, until death do us part. We're going to be married. We're going to stay through this thick and thin, rich or poor, sickness and health. Those are very powerful. And then all of a sudden we find ourselves, oh my God, we've broken that. And so those plans, those are very, very dangerous plans. Now, that does work for some people. They stick with that, and that was their focal point. And good. I mean, that does work for some people. But for those of us who didn't, where does that leave us? You know? We just got to let it go. Hey, it was an experience, whatever. But then you made a comment this morning when we were talking about coming here about, why is this always happening to me? Here's another relationship. What were you talking about? Control. You get in another relationship where a person says, this always happens.
Oh, yeah, we were talking about the lesson. And I said this lesson sounds like how it comes out is when people are saying, you know, why am I always in relationship with people that do A, B, or C? I'm always the one that has to carry everything.
And then your best friend says, until you learn the lesson, you're going to repeat it. And they don't even know what they're saying because they're repeating the same lessons. And I'm talking about myself.
It's really interesting. And funny enough, Marcel and I we're laughing because before we go into a podcast, there's always something that comes up that helps us practice our lesson of the day. So this morning, can I share the thing?
Absolutely.
This was really interesting because I was getting, and we could get as detailed as we want, but Marcel, without realizing it, and you're usually not, and both of us have been guilty of this. We've both, and I use guilty lightly, but both of us have done this. But we were talking about something that was in the news this morning, and you asked me a question about what the story was, and I told you my opinion. And you said, well, then shouldn't it be A or B?
You weren't giving me the answer that I wanted.
I wasn't giving you the answer that you wanted.
And I didn't even know I was looking for an answer.
Exactly. So you asked me the question, I gave you an answer, and then you asked me the question again, and I gave you the answer again. My answer.
Your answer.
My answer.
Not the one I wanted to hear.
I gave you my answer.
And I'm unaware of this.
And you're unaware. And then you asked me the question again. Like a battering ram. I'm going to get the answer I want out of you, and I'm going to keep asking till I hear what I want to hear. Sound familiar?
You're going to be the person I want you to be.
Yes.
I don't care what happened. And this is what I think.
And I looked at you and I said, this is my answer. It's not going to change.
And that brought me into awareness, and I apologized. And I said, I don't know where that came from. I don't know if there's a controlling mechanism to me where I was trying to control the outcome here, trying to make you say something. And we cleaned that up like that.
Like
and
this.
then we talked about it calmly. Wow, that was crazy. Why was I doing that? And you're like, but you kept saying, I don't have enough information to even answer the question, much less the one you're trying to make me answer. You know?
Yeah, it was funny because you're like, well, don't you think this? And I said to you, I don't have enough information to know that.
But you brought me back into awareness, and I backed off, and I realized I was like, well, you don't see it that way? It's like, I had this opinion. And I was going to force it on you. And the issue is pretty powerful. And I think in a broader sense, I may have tapped into a larger anger associated with the opinion. But
it was an emotionally charged issue,
And was that an attack on you?
Nope.
You know, it could be construed as one, right?
I could have construed it as an attack and just lost it. And we could have had a huge fight.
Yeah.
I mean,
and no resolution.
And no resolution. And it's important for listeners to understand.
And it undermines. And then it goes on to something else, you know. Well, I told you that we ordered this, and you idiot. No. And it's just stemming, and then it builds that wall.
It does.
And then it's
emotion
here it
comes
is,
up.
another failed relationship.
And emotion comes up. We are human. We are a couple in relationship. Emotions came up for me. I was getting frustrated. I couldn't understand why you just wouldn't hear what I was saying. And you were getting frustrated because what you were saying. And then as soon as we realized it, this is where the learning comes in. The moment that you said to me, wow, I think I was trying to control at that moment. And I said, "Oh yeah, wow, okay. I think you were." You said, "Honey, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that." And I said, "Yeah, that's okay." And then here's something that's really, really important: empathy. I know that I've done the same thing to you. So it's really very important in the lesson.
You've done it 32 times, by the way, and I'm just joking. I've only done it 23. I'm just kidding.
Oh, you mean today? But I think that this is...
And that is okay.
Yeah, and I think that this is really important. If we go back to the topic, if I defend myself, I am attacked. If I perceived, interestingly enough, like I didn't even realize it. I wasn't defending myself. I was standing my ground.
You were stating your position.
Yeah, I was standing my ground.
You weren't defending yourself.
I wasn't defending.
There's a difference. Yeah. I think that's
because
good.
I was secure
in
my position.
That's it.
And this is what we were talking about here. What happens is I wasn't trying to convince you of my position.
Right.
And you weren't really trying to convince me of your position either.
But I was promulgating. I wanted an affirmation of what I was thinking, because it was a passionate issue. So,
yeah, it's nuanced, and that's why I said at the top of the episode.
Yeah.
This is a complicated, deep issue that relationships, especially couples, we still do. Obviously, walking in here, the only and there are times where we get into it, right? And we're going back and forth, and you want to know why? Undoubtedly, it's because I'm feeling insecure about the position that I'm in, or you're feeling insecure about the position, and we want validation. And that's when you have the issues. And if you don't recognize it, if I don't recognize it, that's when the issue starts to compound and it starts eroding relationships. Feeling like a victim, being in victim mentality erodes relationships on every level.
Absolutely. So, and
I know that there are times where you've talked to me about your ex-relationship, where there were times where there was this victimization going on.
Well, here's one.
It was the attack, and you're like,
the attack was this: I'd be late from work, and a lot of times I just have to stay a little late, and then I'm a quote bad person, bad husband. I suck. I don't care. I'm neglectful because it's a frontal attack. And I just sit there and take it. I just wouldn't know what to say. Hey, I was like this before you met me. I'm like this way now. And one day I just couldn't take it. Went outside, literally laid in my driveway. I remember forming an X. Then I thought, oh my God, I looked up in the sky, closed my eyes and said, God, is there a cloud? Can you muster up some lightning and strike me? I mean, I just didn't want to deal with it anymore. I wasn't defending. I just couldn't take it anymore. And I have my ideas on why that frontal attack was happening, but I don't want to live or pick apart someone else's life.
Yeah.
I just have to work on myself.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I wish I'd have known more. But now I realize I'm glad I didn't defend myself, because I'm not going to defend something I was when I met this person, that it's an integral part of my career, sometimes staying late. And by the way, funny story was, I'm laying down, I hear laughter. I open my eyes, it's a neighbor going, ha, he knew that there was an argument. He goes,
paint this picture. Imagine Marcel laying in the driveway
in the
with his arms out in the Lord take me now pose.
Yeah. Yes. I swear to God, true story.
And his neighbor walks over, looks down at him and says, buddy.
I hear laughter first, because he knew. And here's his therapy. I just slip a Valium in her drink. I thought, I don't have any Valiums, or maybe I'd try that.
Oh my God.
But so this whole idea, so defending yourself. In yourself. And I do have to say, something come to my mind. If somebody comes up and punches you in your face, kicks you, that's an attack.
Yes,
okay?
yes.
This is an attack. And you need to defend yourself, right? Ella, that is an attack. Defend yourself.
Yes. You have our permission to. Yes.
But this is coming back down to the inner workings of how your mind really, because we're given the greatest thing we could ever have, a powerful mind, but we don't know how it operates.
Yeah.
We don't know how we use it.
Yeah.
And this to me was a great understanding of how the engine works, getting under the hood, and it was just asked backwards to me. No, I only defend myself when I am attacked. Yeah. No, the moment you are defending yourself, that's when you're attacked, not when you're being attacked.
Yeah.
That was an eye-opener for me. What am I doing? Oh, you're fat. Oh, God, I am fat. I keep, neglecting that diet. I am gaining weight. What is it? What's wrong? What's wrong with me?
Right. But then you start staying home. You don't go out.
You're attacking yourself.
You're eating by yourself in your car. I mean, you're literally now. Yeah. You start to become that. And then even if you're not, you start to become that. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Next time somebody says, that's right, and I'm bringing fat back, man. It's like, you can joke with it and just know who you are,
And I have to tell you, and yes, exactly. And I have to tell you, it happens all the time. It sneaks up on you and you don't even realize it. I know this morning we're going through stuff, and for me, one of the happens quite often is that I'm a pleaser and I want to do my job at 100%. I want to make everything perfect. Yeah. I am a recovering type A perfectionist. I get better every year. And so, coming into episodes, sometimes we experience, I'm going around, I'm running around, and Marcel is amazing because he'll just kind of step back. I woke up feeling I was exhausted from an event that I did yesterday, which went really well. There were some things that didn't go exactly the way I wanted them to go, but that's okay because I'm telling myself, this is great, this is great, this is great. It's a wonderful event. It's about the kids. And this morning, I was exhausted. I felt, if I really dig deep, I was feeling like a failure. Yeah. Because I felt like I hadn't prepared adequately. Even though we got a decent amount of hours of sleep, I woke up not feeling right. I was running late, and I just was running around in circles, and I didn't have everything ready. Yeah. So I was a little short. A little bit, a lot of it. Okay, I was a little crazy. I was a little cray-cray this morning.
I said, you better call Jesse. Let him know.
A little cray-cray, and I'm like, we're going into podcast, and I'm going to unleash cray-cray. But really talking to myself and saying, and kudos to Marcel. It's so funny. So we were both kind of doing it, and I'm so proud of us that we kind of recognized, both of us, sort of being not in our spiritual places, but making that space for each other and saying, okay, up here, on surface, you're irritating me. You are so irritating me. But really recognizing, I love this person, and let's look at the bigger picture.
And so to me, a bigger picture regard, because we're really trying to.
Did you want to kill me this morning just a little bit?
Absolutely not.
Oh,
because if I did, you wouldn't be here if I wanted to.
I was kind of trying to read the bubble over your head, and I was looking over at you going,
Honestly, I didn't feel any of that because I'm getting better at this stuff.
You are, yes, sensei.
The work in a relationship is never on the other person, even though that's where we say that person needs to do that. You need to look in the mirror and go, this is what I need to do. Mm-hmm. And so these lessons are serving their purposes. Or even though the lesson may not be right on cue, I'm learning all these lessons. There's facets in them that can help you out. And there's probably 500 lessons within the few that are in there that will help any situation. So it's being aware is the key thing of the way you're feeling. Because so many times I feel anger whirling up. I can literally feel the energy in me. And I'm going, okay, what is that feeling? And being aware of that, what is that? And then I say, oh my God. So the real issue with me trying to control it was tied to a deeper issue with me that happened in my personal life. So that's really what I really discovered, was that it was a deeper issue. It triggered something else within me. So that's why I was being passionate. I lost sight of what I was doing, or I lost awareness. Yeah. So I think that's very, very important, because, and it relates back to so many things in that particular lesson. This lesson 135, and there are 365 lessons. Why did we choose that one? Because when I went to me, that was one of the most important ones that I personally learned. And I think it helps out in every aspect of your life where you feel anger. Guilt is a huge thing. So you start feeling guilty. Oh, you look overweight. Oh, yeah. What? And then we beat ourselves up, who knows, for weeks. Oh, yeah. Every time I start a plan, we start feeling guilty that we don't follow through and we don't lose the weight. Yeah. Guilt sets in. And that is really one of the most horrible things you can have in your mind is guilt, because you undermine yourself. Yeah. And so forgiving yourself is really letting go of guilt and letting that go. Okay, so I screwed up on that. All right, just do it again. But really, it's accepting yourself, who you are. Yeah. If you want to,
being gentle with ourselves.
Don't identify with your body so much that if your body's fat, then you're ugly. Then you're not.
Then you're less than.
Yeah, and society says a fat person's, and we buy into all that rubbish. And that's really what that is about. You're attacking yourself. You're making yourself feel guilty. Yeah. That's what that's really about.
Exactly. So, all right. So this is really cool. I have a list of ways to identify if you are in victim mentality. So these are cues to sort of think about and then explore. So we're going to look at this when we come back from break. We're going to go through this list, and you are here with Cynthia Cintron, and you're listening to Fight the Good Fight Club, lesson 135. If I defend myself, I am attacked. And we'll see you at the other side of the break.
Thanks for listening. If you're enjoying this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe and tell your friends. For more tips and ways to dig deep and get real, sign up for our newsletter, read blogs, and shop our merch at fightthegoodfightclub.com.
And you are back to Fight the Good Fight Club with Cynthia and Marcel. And we've been talking about if I defend myself, then I am attacked. And what that means individually, spiritually, in a relationship, spiritually, and in the human sense. So we have a little list that we've pulled. What is this article? It's powerofpositivity.com. Powerofpositivity.com. Victim mentality. It's an article that I pulled up. It's got some tips on how to identify if you have the victim mentality, because we don't really realize it until it's pointed out. If we're in there, we don't realize that it's going on, right?
Yeah. And so who would this be good for? Someone's not going to go, I'm always the victim. If someone's like, I'm tired of feeling this way, why is this always happening to me? When you start asking pertinent questions, maybe I have played a part in my own demise and my own horrible feelings. Maybe it's not other people and what they're thinking, saying, or doing to me. How can I control what is happening to me, even though it appears other people are actually doing this. They're saying things to me, they're doing things, they're undermining me at work, trying to get me fired, or whatever the case may be. My spouse is saying this. Well, maybe, and just really take a close look at how you're processing information
at
in
ourselves.
Your mind, on ourselves.
We want to definitely
Yes.
point out that you don't want to go up to your husband and say, you have victim mentality, and here's a list why you are broken. Fix it. Fix it now.
You're the reason I'm like this.
Yes.
And I've had that said that. You've ruined my life. It's your fault. I'm like this.
Yes. No, this is not intended for you to go out into the world and identify victims.
So I'm tired of feeling this. I'm tired of feeling, and people, what can I do?
Yeah. But you might hear this information and think, wow, maybe I have a friend that's going that may fit this, may fit victim mentality. And maybe you want to, it gives you a way to start a conversation with them about it. Maybe point them to an article if you see that they're going through this. Marcel did this with me, and I have to tell you, you have to tread lightly because he still has his head on his shoulders. But he did point out to me when I had a tendency to pick friends that had the exact same quality. And then I kept saying the same thing. They were basically controlling. What were they doing? Yeah, they were controlling, and it was just a pattern that he discovered.
It's toxic energy for
That's
you.
it. I was surrounding myself with toxic people. And Marcel said, maybe you should take a look at this. This happened with this person. This happened with that person. This happened with that person. This happened with that person. What's the common denominator? And after I rolled my eyes and, didn't throw my plate of food at him, I went back into my corner. My Cuban and my Palestinian go up all the time.
That food was so good that I wish you would have. I'd have eaten it off the floor.
I'll tell you what. Here's a hint. I know where my crazy switch is in my head, and I invested in my head in that plastic cover. At an office, they have a plastic cover with a lock on it so people can't change the air conditioner
Yes.
temperature. I know where my crazy switch is, and I have the lock, and I've hidden it somewhere, and somewhere one of my other personalities knows where it is. I'm sounding really crazy right now, but this is for real. And so when I get a little cray-cray, I'm like, oh, okay. And I go to the box and I see it's locked. And it's like, yeah, you need to sort of take a time out.
That's true. So the Course in Miracles is helping me with you. But with those other personalities, I'm going to need to follow a course in more miracles.
Right? I don't think the problem is with me. I think the problem is with you because you love crazy. And I love crazy too because you have no idea where your crazy switch is, and I'm helping you find it. So back to if I defend myself, I am attacked. So the first one on the list is never taking responsibility for choices. And I think that we just sort of covered that a little bit. Marcel, what does that look like in something? The victim mentality never takes ownership for their lives because they find it easier to blame others for their bad choices.
They don't look at, ultimately we have the ability to choose, right? And for lack of a better example, when we choose to be with someone and we're trying to change them, we want to blame them, but we're the ones that have the choice. And I feel bad for people who are in a position where they feel they have no choice, but I'll just use my mom as an example. My father wasn't around a lot. He was very abusive. I remember some horrible things from when I was a kid. She somehow figured out a way. I am not going to deal with this anymore. And she figured out a way and left him. And she had 5 kids. She didn't know how she was going to do it.
So she took ownership of her own life.
Yeah, and what really set it off for her wasn't all the abuse, physical abuse he was giving to her. One of my father's friends said to her, he brags about how he treats you. He can do whatever the hell he wants. He'll come home and you'll be there like a little Japanese geisha girl. And that set her off when she realized she had a choice. I mean, she didn't think, I have a choice. She just made the choice to get the hell out of there.
Yeah, she went into action.
Yeah.
The second one is blaming everyone but themselves for misfortune. When a series of unfortunate events happens, the victim will never look within themselves for the answer. Instead, they blame their past job, parents, stock market, economy, bad weather, finances, sister, friends, blah, 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 blah,
Yes.
blah, right? It's always somebody else's fault, isn't it?
Yes. And so once you put the blame on someone else, therein lies your solution too. You're counting on all those circumstances to change, so you are no longer the victim. Blame the government. Oh my God, I would never count on the government for anything, therefore I should not blame them for anything. So you always got to take ownership of the situation, okay? So if you take the ownership and you don't blame, the blaming someone's, you're blaming outside of yourself. You got to look within and see what you can do.
What's your responsibility?
So
what's your part in it?
What's your response? How
What's
can
your
you be?
part in it?
Because if you depend on others, you'll never find peace or never get a handle on the issue. You always have 100% complete control of what you think, say, and do.
Exactly.
I mean, you have the ability to control those. Not that we do. So.
Exactly. The third one is a big one. I know I've done this. I know a couple of people that do this all the time, and it makes me a little crazy. But you seek attention from others by complaining.
Misery loves company.
Victims thrive on attention, but not the good kind. Instead of doing positive things with their life, they would promote positive reactions from others. So constantly complaining about your mother, your brother, your husband, your wife, your children. Just complain. And that way you get attention from others, which feeds your victim.
So my immediate thought on that is you're either part of the problem or you're part of the cure. You're part of the problem when you're complaining. So rather than complain, figure out what your complaint is and then just take action and become part of the cure and just take action and do it. But don't just sit there and complain. It's like there's an old story of a hound dog on a doorstep. Salesman comes up to knocks on the door. Guy comes out and the dog starts moaning, and then they look at the dog and then they start talking again. The dog starts moaning again, and he's like, "What's wrong with your dog?" He goes, "Oh, he's laying on a nail." It's enough to create discomfort and make him complain for a little while, but not enough pain to make him to actually do something about it. So I think if there's a nail in you causing you to complain, if there's something going on that you don't like, quit complaining, accept it for what it is, and rely on others to change or whatever. Or you take
rely
action.
on yourself.
Rely on yourself,
That's,
yeah. And so quit playing the victim, use it as a springboard to complain and to create, for lack of a better word, negative energy in the air.
Well, awareness is a big deal here with this one. Listen to what you're communicating. Listen to how you are communicating. And what is one of the main topics that you have at the end of the day. Sit back, contemplate on your day. Did you spend all day long calling all of your friends complaining about your job?
Exactly.
Did you do that yesterday? Did you do that the day before?
Yeah.
Are you going to do it again tomorrow?
Right.
That's victim mentality.
And there's an old book called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. The very first words in there or thereabouts, don't criticize, condemn, or complain. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. So one other thing, if you are on the side around somebody always complaining and you hang up the phone, and you've said this before, if you feel blah, like you just encountered some toxic energy, and that you may not need that relationship in your life, and there's nothing unspiritual about that.
Yeah, because you could be victim to victim behavior.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%.
Sometimes just cut them off, take a pair of scissors and just cut it off.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is very spiritual, making a decision not to be around energy like that.
Yeah. Well, and you can also don't become a victim to somebody else's victimization. So how that looks like is with you and I, when I was constantly complaining about a client that I had. It was horrible. You said to me, listen, I'm here for you. I love you. I want to support you. But you have to understand that every single day it's the same thing over and over again.
And I got selfish when I say that person is wasting my life.
Yep.
Because I'm having to take up my time in my life to
Listening
listen.
to me complain.
They're channeling through you right to me, and I'm tired of that person wasting my life and using you to do it.
Yeah. And I really, you know, after I got over the initial I was so grateful because, well, first I said to you, okay, fine, I'm never going to complain about them again. But what happened was that I really thought about it, and I realized that I was, and I ended up cutting the client.
Yeah.
Because it was true. And you know what happened on the other side of that? Happiness, joy. I got my joy back. So, okay, the next one is you think others purposely are out to get you. Victims have a hard time trusting others and think everyone has some sort of plan. That's an easy one. People are out to get you and you feel like you can't control it. You're a leaf floating in the wind. You're a victim. Take control of your life. Make your own choices.
And sometimes thinking that too. I know someone, I swear, they order a microwave, they'll get 3 or 4 delivered because the first one comes, it's dented, the second one doesn't work, the third one's scratched or whatever. Refrigerator, same thing. And I'm like, how is that possible that this stuff happens to this person all the time? And it's like, I do believe it. When you have that mentality, you attract that energy, and your self-fulfilling prophecy. You
do. You create it. You attract it in your life. And it says that actually in
just,
this lesson, it actually talks about how you attract that.
And that person, people weren't returning her phone calls, and she was telling me. And then one day I had it out with her. I said, you know what? I can't take this anymore. You make a choice. Either business or pleasure. We can transfer all your business and we'll just have a personal relationship, but you are never happy. You complain about every little thing. And lo and behold, that was about 4 years ago, and we have the best relationship now.
Yeah, because you told her.
Well, she realized other people were leaving her life because of the way she was, complaining, condemning, and whatever.
The next one is the victim mentality overreacts to every problem.
Every mountain's a molehill.
Victims see
or every molehill's a mountain.
Victims see every small issue as the end of the world because they want to have something to complain about. Yeah. This is when you see that person who is working, all the plates are up in the air, everything's happening to them, the sky's falling every day, that person is a victim. Yeah. And if you're that person, take a moment and realize, and I've been guilty of this too, 85 things to do. And I've sat down, made a list, and realized that really there are only 4 plates in the air. Yeah. Create the time to handle these issues, breathe, and understand that no one is going to think that you're less worthy if you don't have 18 balls in the air. Moms do this a lot. Moms have to handle everything because if they don't, no one will do it.
Right.
And they're a victim to the kids, the husband, the job. I have to do it, I have to do it all, I have to do it all. And at the end of the day, really, the quality of your life is less, and the people around you and you are suffering.
Yeah, and I would venture to say, I mean, I've certainly played the role of a victim in my life. And I think at the end of the day, if you want to get down to the heart of the matter, ask yourself, why am I behaving this way? And why am I doing all this? So when I was in a bad relationship, I was never more productive in my entire life. I was doing anything except to address the issues at hand. Quite honestly, I didn't know how to.
Yeah.
So I channeled all that into things. That's why I was always productive. I could do anything, clean the house, cook dishes, get work done, get all this. I was able to, in an insurmountable of tasks, accomplish them.
But
there was a real issue gnawing at me that was affecting the relationship, and I'm sure I was part to blame for it, but I didn't know how to address it because the And my excuse is the force was so overwhelming that I was the problem. I was the issue. There was never an issue over here with the other person.
Yeah.
That was never on the table because there wasn't one.
Yeah.
I was the issue. And I'm like, I was in this shell shock mode. I didn't realize it. But I was very productive in my life, you know.
Well, the problem is that you were productive.
I didn't know how to handle it.
But you didn't have balance.
No.
So you're productive in your life. Your work is amazing, but you don't have love in your life.
Yeah.
You're not happy. No. You're just working. You're just a working beaver bee. And how
I'm avoiding the key issue in my life, and I didn't even realize it.
Exactly.
But I was, in a way, that's the subset. I'm somehow playing the victim in there. I know it because I didn't know, you know.
Well, that's the last one. They feel powerless to take any action.
That was me.
So you felt powerless.
I was a victim. And it's a sad state of being a victim. But really, let's put it this way. A victim is not able or hasn't become aware of what's happening.
You're not a victim. You have victim mentality.
Okay.
Exactly. And it's important to separate the two. I am not what I'm telling myself that I am.
Right.
I'm a beautiful, wonderful, amazing, perfect ray of light.
To the power of 10.
Exactly. I'm telling myself.
You really are. You're white light.
Exactly.
With a full range of colors.
Exactly. But I'm telling myself that I'm a victim, that I'm not all these things. So it's important to separate, just like you say, separate the two and realize you are not powerless.
Right.
Every human being has every single thing that they need within them
that's it.
To accomplish joy, peace, happiness, anything that they want in their life. It's all within you, but you're the only one that's the rub. There's the rub. You're the only one that can create it. You're the only one that can take it away from you.
And that's the whole springboard of this whole podcast, right? Fight the good fight, cleanse your mind, find peace within for your spirit, because there is a God within us, eternal spirit. If you don't like that word, eternal spirit, eternal life is within us. We're blocking that off with the victimization, with the fears, all those things. So. Absolutely.
So at the end of the day, really what we're saying is what Marcel just said. You are eternal light. You know, look at your life. Sit down at the end of the day.
What colors are yet to be experienced in your life? If you
what do you want?
all the barriers. Yes.
Exactly.
If I defend myself, I am attacked.
Exactly. And I think that's good. If you're listening to you are listening to Fight the Good Fight Club with Marcel and Cynthia. If you like what you hear, please subscribe on YouTube, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and we will see you and talk to you next week.
Thank you.
If you enjoy our podcast, we invite you to subscribe to Fight the Good Fight Club on YouTube. Hit the notification button and give us a thumbs up. Also, head over to fightthegoodfightclub.com and sign up for the newsletter, read blogs, and more. Thanks for listening.